Last week we saw one of Sony's most valuable studios pull the plug on a highly anticipated multiplayer experience. One of the crown jewels of Sony's game development arsenal, Naughty Dog, has confirmed that it is no longer working on The Last of Us Online. This news comes after significant leadership changes at Sony. We've heard rumblings of former senior vice president and head of internal production Connie Booth leaving Sony Interactive Entertainment, following a dispute over retiring CEO Jim Ryan's decision to pursue a roadmap of games as a service title. This decision, however, reportedly hasn't sat well with Sony's development studios. The recent news surrounding Naughty Dog's failure to deliver on its vision for a multiplayer Last of Us experience raises an important question. Is Sony's gas bubble about to burst? What's up everybody, my name's Deadly Headley and welcome to my channel. I'm a brand new content creator, I'm a graphic designer, I have a journalism degree, and I love talking about video games. If you're new here and you end up enjoying this video, consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons to help the channel grow and see more content from me. We're closing out 2023 having just hit 600 subscribers. Don't forget you can also find me on Twitter and Threads using the link in the pinned comment down below. That's all the housekeeping from me, let's get into it. In mid-December, Naughty Dog announced that it has stopped all development on The Last of Us Online. The studio stated that the multiplayer team has been in pre-production with this game since we were working on The Last of Us Part 2, crafting an experience we felt was unique and had tremendous potential. As the multiplayer team iterated on their concept for The Last of Us Online during this time, their vision crystallized, the gameplay got more refined and satisfying, and we were enthusiastic about the direction in which we were headed. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all of our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So, we had two paths in front of us. Become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. Reality came calling when Naughty Dog realised what would be required to support a live service game, and the cost of this would mean that it could no longer work on the type of experience it's become best known for. Let's get this one out of the way first. I'm not happy about this news. Despite labelling myself as an Xbox content creator, I am a huge fan of The Last of Us. My expectations for The Last of Us Online were extremely high. I was hoping for an experience not too dissimilar from The Division, but with zombies, a compelling story that immersed players in a post-apocalyptic survival horror, all wrapped up in a high-quality package that Naughty Dog are well known for delivering. The recent decision by Jim Ryan to pursue a GAAS model felt like a strange one to anyone who recognises what Sony's studios do well. PlayStation's first-party studios have delivered a string of highly successful single-player experiences. While Sony has come under scrutiny from players for sticking with the narrative-driven, third-person over-the-shoulder action game with stealth elements template, media responses have generally been consistently favourable towards the type of genre that Sony has successfully delivered time and time again. So the ambition to switch to a multiplayer games as a service model with some of its most coveted IPs feels like a bold one, but not necessarily a wise one. The old adage of, if it ain't broke, comes to mind. The reason for Sony's pivot towards GAAS is starting to become much clearer after it was revealed this week that the cost of AAA development is starting to look rather unsustainable. Live services can be a form of massive revenue generation. Part of the reason why Microsoft were keen to acquire Activision Blizzard King is because Call of Duty alone is a money printing machine. Established live service games like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Call of Duty all have player bases that play these games and only these games religiously. I should know, Apex was basically the only game I played from the day it launched right up until I dropped off around season 15. Largely, these games are social experiences as well as competitive ones. The place you go to hang out with your mates, shake off the day, and aim for the W. To keep player bases engaged and interested, they're going to need to provide good quality content on a regular basis, and if that content starts slowing down or gets stale, player numbers start dropping. Live services are funded by their player bases, which in the case of a behemoth like Call of Duty Warzone, peaked at over 10 million players in the last 30 days. Not all of these players will indulge in the odd microtransaction, but the gamble is that at some point, most of them will, and the majority of those will be buying them regularly. In short, Call of Duty alone is an absolute cash cow. Retiring PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan hedged Sony's bets on 60% of its first-party titles adopting the live service model. I can see strengths in this strategy. Multiplayer games provide a good form of endless social fun and storytelling. It's the amazing feat you pull to wipe the enemy team off the board, the last-ditch effort to return your flag, only to stop it inches from the goal line, turning the tide of the entire match. That push for the final circle in a ranked match where everything is on the line, but a foray of perfectly executed tactics and pinpoint communication with your squad means that you already know you've got this win in the bag. If Sony can deliver just one successful live service game that has the potential to compete with the likes of Fortnite or Call of Duty, this strategy could pay off, and leveraging the help of some already established and much loved exclusive IPs will help. We've recently had insight into Marvel's terms with Sony to license out an IP like Spider-Man or Wolverine, which, and this shouldn't come as much of a surprise, isn't cheap to make. In fact, recent leaked documents from Insomniac showed Spider-Man 2 to have cost around $315 million to make, estimating to deliver around $75 million in profit if it meets the sales target of 10.5 million units. Given that so far Insomniac's Marvel games have been exclusively single-player games with no multiplayer component to offer some sort of additional monetization that could help recoup some of the development cost, it's essential that Insomniac can deliver on sales targets to make this model sustainable. Spider-Man 2 was indeed a massive hit, scoring Insomniac Games its first 90 Metascore, but a lot of the world and game mechanics were reused. The story has been widely criticised by players, and yet it seemed to cost 3 times as much to make as the first game. None of these factors were detrimental to its overall reception, but had this game been a flop, which is admittedly unlikely as Spider-Man is a much loved IP, the financial loss would have been devastating.
Oh my god. I am never gonna financially recover from this.
Having a massively successful live service title elsewhere within Sony's first-party ranks will secure an income stream that puts less pressure on sales targets for single-player games in order to make sure that they're funded properly. Sony's advantage here is its massive install base. At the time of writing, Sony has sold more than 50 million PS5 consoles. If Sony was able to deliver a live service game on both PlayStation and PC that could rival the likes of Call of Duty or Fortnite, Sony would have its own money printing machine that would secure the funding it needs to keep its AAA single-player development arm sustainable long-term. The problem here is that Sony has not historically been very good at delivering multiplayer games. Sony has well and truly made its bed in the single-player space, and it does a good job here, but sticking to what it knows best means it doesn't have the experience to understand what it means to run and sustain a successful live service. Sony doesn't have any active multiplayer IPs. For example, SOCOM has been dormant since the PS2, Killzone is also out of the running, and the most popular multiplayer game on PlayStation right now is Call of Duty, owned by Microsoft. Sony's best bet is to use one of its most valued IPs to launch a multiplayer service that can excite and energize its core fanbase with an exclusive title. The trouble is that this is far easier said than done. As Naughty Dog has found out, making a live service game is one challenge, but delivering compelling content that can keep users engaged and paying into the ecosystem you've built for an extended period of time takes a huge amount of resource and commitment. 343 very nearly learned the hard way with Halo Infinite, seeing its player base drop off a cliff within the first few weeks of launch because the content diversity just wasn't there. It's taken 2 full years to get Halo Infinite to a state that could now be considered feature complete, but the player count hasn't returned to the heights it achieved when it first launched, and the in-game store has received strong criticism from players for the way cosmetic items have been monetized. Unfortunately, the reality is that 343 needs to do this in order to recover development costs and deliver a return on investment. The multiplayer space is highly competitive, already feeling saturated with live service titles. Any new multiplayer experience will struggle to pull audiences from established games with a rich backlog of content effectively, and it will have to be impactful enough to keep players returning instead of going to the games where they have already spent their hard-earned money. Not wanting to become burdened with the responsibility of solely being a live service studio, Naughty Dog saw that this would be a challenge, which is why the plug was pulled on The Last of Us Online. Following this news, I reached out to notorious industry insider Tom Henderson to ask if this move could indicate a broader change in strategy from Sony, questioning the viability of games as a service. Henderson replied by saying that he thought it was fair to say Sony is questioning the sustainability of GAAS and whether elevating successful IPs and teams into them can be successful. He continued by saying that he'd never say never, but thinks it's going to be immensely difficult. He also rightly pointed out that this isn't just a Sony problem, as we've also seen Ubisoft fail to pivot in a similar direction before cancelling a number of upcoming GAAS projects. Naughty Dog's vision for The Last of Us Online could have been something special, and I'm genuinely sorry to see that the studio has come to its decision to pull the plug. A lot of time, work, money, and love will have gone into this project over a number of years, considering the studio was working on this game during the development of Last of Us Part 2. So my thoughts go out to the creatives that were close to this game and excited about seeing it come to fruition. Personally, I think Naughty Dog should have stuck to its vision and diversified its creative offering. We've seen games launch with both great single-player components and a well-sustained multiplayer service, and I believe that if Naughty Dog were able to establish a large dedicated multiplayer team that could work alongside its single-player team, that this game would have launched successfully. As we've seen with a game like Halo Infinite though, it's definitely easier said than done. What's up everybody, my name's Sedley Headley, and I just want to thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with me. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons, as well as the notification bell so that you don't miss another video from me. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter and Threads using the link in the pinned comment down below. If you're still here, whether it's your first time seeing my content or you've been subscribed for a while, I just want to say thank you for supporting me in 2023. I started this channel as a means for creative expression and to fulfill an urge I had to try my hand at content creation, and to talk about a hobby I've loved for as long as I can remember. Since putting out my first video in July, my channel has grown far beyond my wildest expectations, and that is all thanks to people like you. And because of you, I've been able to reignite a passion for journalism. I've had an absolute blast making high quality content that, as a creative professional, I can say I'm truly proud of, as well as having the opportunity to get to know some other amazing content creators in this community. You have no idea how much I appreciate you, and I want to wish you a year of health and happiness in 2024. Let me know your thoughts on The Last of Us Online. Was this a game that you were looking forward to, or do you think it was wise for Naughty Dog to stick with what they know? That's all from me today guys, I'll catch you soon. Peace.